We're now live. We are now live. Live.
Whew. What's up, Majority? It's me, Majority. And I just crawled out of the RPG cave. Last month, March, was RPG month. And I spent an entire month pretty much just playing two games. Persona 5 and Etrian Odyssey 2. Which of those did I finish? Well, let's roll the backlog. Neither. But I beat Mega Man. Why? Why can't I finish an RPG? 98 hours into Persona 5, and I'm not done. What is going on? I'm not complaining. I like it. I'm really happy that it's still going. And I'm not in a rush. But to me, there's only one resolution here, and that's that April is just going to have to be RPG Month Part 2. So stay tuned to the end of the video. I've got a great question lined up for you. And enjoy this week's episode of, or this month's episode, of Majority Speaks. 2. The Great Divide in RPG fans. That's a perspective title. Okay, so I did scan through the comments from last time. I noticed some trends. People either say story or gameplay. And usually I like to read them in the moment, but I ended up trying to do a take of this while I was sick, and it ended up being like 26 minutes of me sniffling and coughing, so that's no good. So I'm doing it again. I actually like that I read most of these ahead of time. So I'm gonna try and bring in some good commentary. But without further ado, let's read those comments. Guys. Alright, starting from the bottom, aka the oldest, well, not the oldest, I don't like putting it like that. Well, the people who made it first. Alright, 01, 3 weeks ago. First? Question mark? Yes, you are first. The first to comment. Like, what do I do with that? Alright, next. Sporadic spacebar. Without a doubt, the most important aspect of an RPG is an engrossing story. I don't care if a game has the best battle system and the best graphics. The story is shit. Then I'm done with it. They have to give me a reason to keep coming back. Thanks and cheers. Cheers, my friend. I have a glass. I'm gonna do this carefully. Cheers. I don't want to knock the camera over, but I'll tap the box that the camera is on. So before I lose track here, something interesting is that I've been messing with like the camera and the microphone. I have a flimsy tripod for the camera, so oftentimes like the camera will just like tilt. And this microphone I got from Amazon Prime for like $40, which is a steal. But the tripod that it comes with is so dingy, so I have this cup that I'm drinking out of, holding the tripod in place so the microphone doesn't fall over. Just a little backstory about some of my new products. Anyways, let's entertain the thought, because it's the thought that counts. Sporadic Spacebar says that a story has to be engrossing because that's what's going to pull you in. See, I'm of that same mindset. To me, a lot of things make up that story. And if like I don't buy into a game, I'm not gonna keep going. Like I've played games with good gameplay that just don't have good stories. I think if you look at the Mario and Luigi series, there's a reason that I really like Superstar Saga, but I don't really like the later ones. I mean, I haven't played Partners in Time, but I've tried Bowser's Inside Story. I've tried the Dream Team one, and it's undeniable that those games have great gameplay, but I don't care for the stories. So I agree with you. that thought counts. All right. Wolfflow says, "It's insane." These comments and reflections feel like someone read them directly out of a page in my brain. All right, take two. Take three, really. Wolfflow says, "It's insane." These comments and reflections feel like someone read them directly out of a page in my brain. Well, you know, part of being a part of the majority is that I know what you're thinking, man. No, I'm totally joking. I have no idea what you're thinking, but I see the trends. So he's referring to last episode, or in 1.1, where I was just reading some thoughts. And I was just entertaining the thoughts. And all right, I'm just speaking nonsense now. Let's read what he says. "What I value the most in an RPG is a creative story that leaves a profound impact on me. Other elements, like an interesting setting to tie into the story, are all the more effective though, and one that really sticks out to me after finishing lots of the end game content is Lost Sphere." True dat. I haven't played Lost Sphere, but I agree with you. I like two words in this, profound and impact, and together, that's like the heart of the RPG. So when a game affects you, like it's not just games that you would tie that to. Sometimes movies affect you, sometimes books affect you, and it's because they really resonate with you. And if they really change some perspective that you have, or they create some sensation, that's when you found the star RPG. And I can think of a couple games that did that to me. By the time I get to the end credits, I'm like in tears, that has really affected me. Other games, I'm thinking like the Fire Emblem games, I'm thinking of the Shin Megami Tensei games. Even if the effect is not tears, if it's like almost frustration in a way, that can be interesting. Like I got really frustrated with SMT4 for not giving me like the story I wanted, but I came to appreciate it later. So I think that's really important, and that the story is what's going to do that for you. Now, you can make a case for gameplay doing that instead. Like if you've worked really hard at a game, like I just played Mega Man, right? And Mega Man had a profound impact on me, and that game's story is not told through like dialogue, but it's still story in a way. The gameplay builds up to a story. So I think they go hand in hand. I don't want to say too much though. I haven't played Lost Sphere. Hopefully I could try it someday. I don't know if that's an Xbox game or not though. My bad, I'm out of the loop. Up next comes The Completionist. My man. The most significant and important RPG element, I'm just going to add the word, is its story, hands down. You need something that is going to keep the person interested in the game that you are trying to present. You can have the best battle system, the best music, the best characters, but if you can't tell a competent and compelling story, then those elements that I mentioned before are just useless filler. Stop there. This is a long comment. See, that's what I mean, right? It's the difference between playing a game mindlessly and really being engrossed, as Sporadic Spacebar said before. Like, I come home thinking about what's going to happen next in the next installment of the game. Like, that's why the Persona series is like so addicting, because like you're finding out like all these main stories and sub stories. That's where side quests tend to get it wrong, is because they don't contribute to, chill out for a second, I'm making the camera shake. They don't contribute to the overarching narrative. They don't inform your understanding of the character or the world. They just are there for XP. But that's where Persona gets it right. Also, I feel like, when you say story, it can mean several things. Like, I feel like characters build towards a story, and sometimes, like, even though you do have silent protagonists, or you have, like, these team building games like Pokemon, in a way, you're still paving your own story through those games. So I'm going to come back to that Pokemon thing, but we'll look at the rest of this comment. A story can always keep you captivated, even if the other aspects of an RPG fall flat. One of the reasons why my favorite RPG of all time is my favorite is strictly because of its story. The other elements that make up the rest of the game are just an added bonus. Thanks for taking the time to read and analyze my comment in great detail. You already know. I gotta do my best. Keep running this great idea of a series, my friend, and I look forward to seeing where you want to take it. Let's take it outdoors. Let's go for a picnic. I'd actually have to bring the laptop fully charged because I want this microphone quality. And I probably sacrificed the 1080p for that. But I do want to do an outdoors installment someday when it gets nice. But anyways, I feel like, I'm seeing these words: captivating, engrossing, profound, impact. That's what I value in an RPG, and I'm not saying you have to either, but that's the dominant theme here, is that we go into these RPGs because we're looking for that, I don't want to say life-changing experience, because I can't say it's like going to blow your mind, but it can at least confirm or affect your thinking about how a story is told. And it's not something a lot of other genres do. Alright, we're getting into the underdog side of the argument. SNES Mapper says, I love this new series. Thank you. As for the RPG aspect question, I thought about it, and my first reaction was to answer story and be done. But then after thinking a bit more, I realized that there are a good number of RPGs with very simplistic bare-bone stories that I really like. And the reason I like them so much is the gameplay. For example, one of my favorite RPGs of all time is Pokemon Blue, Red, Yellow, and that game has basically zero story. But it was the collecting, training, leveling up gameplay aspects that made the game really fun. In fact, it's one of my most addicting games. I couldn't stop playing these games back in the day. See, I had that problem too. I played a lot of Pokemon. Ys Origin is another good example. The story is good but simple, but the game truly shines in its fast-paced and addicting combat system. So yeah, I think gameplay ends up being the most important aspect in RPGs. There you go. I mean, that's a solid counter argument because it's addicting. And there's a reason that phone games are so popular. It's not because of games with great stories, because people can just hop right into them at any time. It depends what you're in it for, really. If you want to be... That's in one way being engrossed, really, is addicting gameplay. And when you think about it, a lot of people play these MOBAs or online RTS that don't really have stories. So I can understand that perspective. All right, let's move on. All right, we got a second one for gameplay. This comes from Bio Phoenix. I think gameplay should always be the most important part in pretty much any game. There are some RPGs I played that had a great story writing and characters, but did lack a good battle system. Bland level designs and just feel tedious throughout, etc. But of course, having the great story and characters is something that can help make the game feel more rewarding and fun to experience. Now, if a game does not have a great story but great gameplay, it could also hinder the overall outcome. But I think it depends on what the game's tone is, since there are many games that have a lighthearted tone or are just a parody that don't take itself too serious that can work out just fine. For the record, I am the type of person that will take every RPG as is and not try to expect them all to be the caliber of the classics like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy, since we don't live in a perfect world, but it would be nice if they all were, weren't they? Alright, I filled in a few words there, but that was well written. And he does stand on the gameplay side, but he also acknowledges that there has to be some good story too. And I think that's the key here, is that there's a balance. I thought Torment, Tides of Numenera had an incredible world and characters and story, but the gameplay was kind of messed up, and maybe that's because it was like a PC game ported to a console. I'm not too sure. So I can understand if gameplay sucks, you're not going to want to keep playing the game. So that's where I start to fall on like it's both. It's not just one. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people can put up with that because people seem to like that game too. But then again, I think like it has to be built for the right platform. Like that's an exception. I don't know. Cool, let's move on. Ball and Nick, 1982. Awesome series, man. I love the praise. Thank you. As for my answer about RPGs, for me, the gameplay has to be fun. That's 3 for 3. We're tied right now. I've played several RPGs that have mediocre at best storylines, but very fun gameplay, which to me, I'm not reading that right, which helped me actually enjoy the game. If I'm playing an RPG with an amazing story, but the gameplay is either too boring or too complicated, then I will probably have no desire to keep playing it. Strategy RPGs are a great example for me. I know some SRPGs are some of the best RPGs out there, Final Fantasy Tactics, but I will never get into that game because the gameplay just isn't for me. Keep up the good work, buddy. Always look forward to your videos, even if I don't comment all the time. Take care. Thank you. All that praise, I can't handle it. You shower me with praise. I gotta think about that because the last time I played a game with like mediocre storyline, I hate to say it, but like Advance Wars is not like the best story. I played it like 10 years ago, but the gameplay is amazing. I love Advance Wars. I wish they would bring that series back. So I see that perspective. But I also see, like, if they were just, how would I put this? If they were just cardboard cutout character portraits, I don't think that game would be as much fun. But there's something to the aesthetic. So I think the aesthetic is really important too. And that's what people are saying with like the setting and characters, etc. And to me, those help build the story. So I have a skewed perspective, but I like that. I like that people are standing up for both sides. Cool. Let's look at the next one. Bossum Birth. Thanks for answering my straggling ass. LOL. Haha. No problem. Least I could do. As for the answer to your RPG question, that is easy for me to answer. Characters. Oh, snap. That's a new one. Things like story, combat, and music can up the enjoyment factor, but it's very rare one of these things will be my sole reason for play. I agree. I think you need to have interesting characters. Like that's an underrepresented aspect of the RPG. Grandia 3 has a phenomenal battle system, but it's not enough to make me want to play through the game. If this game had interesting characters that I cared about, I would feel more motivation to continue playing. And that just makes me think about like anime that I've been watching. If I don't care for these characters and like I think the dialogue sucks, like I think their voiceovers are terrible, then I don't want to keep watching. But if I like these characters, I don't think they're like just Dragon Ball clones, then I will want to keep watching. And it's about doing things in ways that are interesting, and I don't want to say always innovative. You don't always have to innovate, but at least grasp the viewer, the player, the gamer. Make these characters make you think. And that is part of a story, but I mean, I also think it's part of aesthetic. So I like that you stood up for that. Thank you, boss man. I'm giving you my heart. Alright, Auslook 007. Not anything against gameplay, but I get so sick of hearing it comes down to gameplay always being the defining factor of making a great game. Shots thrown, jabs thrown. I like it. Putting on the boxing gloves. I was always into fantasy and watching movies. There's limited fantasy content. When I started reading novels, it opened up so much more imaginative stories to experience. And I agree. I think the RPG can be like the closest thing you see to a book or a novel. And that's why I gravitate towards them, is when they tell tales. It's an underrepresented aspect in video games. So I'm glad that RPGs do that. Same goes with RPGs. Being like stories I could interact with as well. Agreed. I like the combat in these turn-based games, but was always indifferent to it, and most of what I remember was the plot, setting, and the music. It really told a great story. The music, oh my gosh. RPGs have like the best soundtracks. That's subjective, but they're really well made. Some games, the focus is the gameplay for me, where it might have good ambience still, but the story takes the back burner. I think turn-based RPGs might not really be stimulative and have me as engaged as Dark Souls, for example, but they are relaxing and therapeutic. Little things like grinding for a piece of gear or customizing my party to beat a boss will give me a sense of achievement while still keeping me mildly engaged with the combat. I can relax more and chill if I'm in the mood for that instead of an adrenaline rush. Fast-paced action game, I can sit back and take the game at my own pace and enjoy the story I can play and be a part of. Wow, lots of good perspectives there. So, I like that too. When you come home from work, sometimes you're in the mood to play a fast-paced game where you're going to be like into the action. Sometimes you just want to chill and just kind of enjoy a story that is told to you. And even if it is part of the grind, part of the leveling up, that's part of the experience. It's part of the story. You made it. And yeah, I mean, sometimes games kind of set that up for you in a way. Like they tell you what the best pieces of gear are. But other times they don't. You name these characters a lot of times. So it's your story. Good comment, man. The Funny Nerd, the most significant part of an RPG for me are the systems in place. Leveling up systems, attribute systems, shop systems, affinity systems, and most important of all, battle system. It's a nice way of not saying gameplay. I like it though. It's a good comment. If the game has all of those well implemented in it, then story is secondary. If the game has great character building and good story on top of well implemented systems, then we get the best games possible. That is well put. Sometimes games do this just for the sake of doing it, like they add a skill tree in there because other games do skill trees, but there's a way to do it right. And when it doesn't feel like a chore, when it feels like a natural part of the experience. One sniffle in like a 30-minute video. Not bad, right? When the games do it well, it's beautiful. And it's part of the identity of the game. Like Demon Infusion in Shin Megami Tensei games. When that's done well, you could spend hours doing that. I like that comment. That is a great comment. A few of these comments have replies too. I don't want to spend too much time reading comments. This would be way too long. So I'm just reading the central comments. Feel free to reply on other people's comments though. And last but not least, what's on my shelf? And thanks dude for going out of your way to comment on other people's posts. I thought that was really cool. This is the way I understand your question. What is the defining factor of an RPG, which all RPGs must have in order to be classified as an RPG? That's actually a really good inflection of the question, but not necessarily what I asked, because I'm kind of allowing you to take the definition of RPG and call it what you will. I will think about an answer, think. And then his next comment is, do you own any of the Strider games for Sega Genesis? Oh man, okay. That is a good question. I like that you kind of threw that back at me. Because I recently had this discussion with Shintai about what is an RPG, like what makes it RPG and not like turn-based Japanese, Western, whatever. And it's so hard to say it's one thing. I think looking at that question, I think about the Funny Nerd's answer about systems, where it has a system in place for allowing you to assume the roles of characters in the game. And that could be action-based, it could be turn-based. But I think where you draw the line is like if it's an action-adventure game that has a story in it that's not necessarily an RPG. I still think back to the classic definition. I always think turn-based. But I get it. Like I get how it would not be turn-based. You could even argue that Final Fantasy is not turn-based. So, I don't have a clear answer to that. There are better people to turn to, but I like that you asked me that question. But those are your comments. What amazing comments, you guys. Keep them coming. As promised, here's the question for RPG Month Part 2. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. Let me sip my water so I don't sniffle through it. Okay, we were real serious last time. I made you go end to end about what makes an RPG an RPG and what it needs to be there to keep you playing it. Okay, I didn't think I'd catch a break. I caught the break. Here it is. If you could spend a week with an RPG, how would you do it? Think of this as like your vacation. Not necessarily like going on vacation, but if you got to just chill out, no work responsibilities, you had an RPG, what would be your habits while playing it? So like, would you put up a recliner and then have like lemonade on the side and, ice trays and then a cafe maid rubbing your feet while you play Breath of Fire? Or like, would you be at a convention center playing Pokemon with a bunch of friends? What would you do if you had a week with an RPG? That's it. Thanks for the great episode. I hope you liked it. Stay tuned. We got more to come. Oh, and I'm giving you like a month to get the questions in. I'm not doing this again until May. So keep those comments coming. Let's keep making this a great series. Cheers, my friends. See you next time.